How you doing, Cancer? Let's see what's going on. What you got going on for us, Cancer? Celtic cross for Cancer. Divine Spirit, give me a Celtic cross for Cancer. Death. First card out. There was death and transformation. Cancer. Celtic cross for Cancer. So there was an ending to something, a death and a transformation. What's crossing you is moving away. You probably have a move coming up, a change in household due to this ending. Possibly a move out of town, or from an employment, or from a shared home. The foundation is that you want healing, Cancer. You have a dream, something in particular, or possibly just healing, because with the dead situation, there was an ending and there's no saving it, and you're emotionally unhappy of where you are. And if you can't heal together or collectively, you would like to heal on your own. The past, what is behind you? My. Your creative talents and abilities, the Lovers. Could have been dealing with a Gemini. But there was a separation within a romantic relationship, a marriage, long-term union. Five, 10 of Wands. That is your goals and your conscious awareness, the best that can be accomplished at present. You're overwhelmed. You feel like all of the responsibilities and burden was on you. Now you're dealing with the aftermath of an ending, and you're dealing with the consequences to that aftermath, and you feel like you're doing it all on your own. Six, your future, what is just before you. Ace of Wands. This is a new perspective. This is truth. This is seeing things as they are, and instead of seeing things the way that you want them to be. Maybe whoever you're dealing with, whether it was a love relationship, a romantic love relationship, or a karmic bond within a family member or so, seems like you were pulling the weight here and they were taking advantage of you. Perhaps there was lies that actually made itself known, the mask came off and then they revealed themselves. And whatever came to light, it was something you can't ignore and something you can't accept, and you moved away. Because if you can't heal with them, you know that the only way to heal is on your own. And it's like there was no fulfillment that was left, like you've seen them in a different light, and it's something that can't be unseen, a flaw in their character or a loss of trust. And that's what it really seemed like. Somebody lied to you and you found out. How you see yourself, your personal strength and weakness, and individual perspective of you. This is a message of truth. You're going to speak your truth. Be careful not to be too cutting. This can be immature communication. This can be lashing out. This can be speaking before thinking, saying things harshly that you can't take back. But this is you wanting to speak your mind and prove your point and state your case, and to bring truth in the matter that I know. Whatever came to light, I know. And the thing about the full moon, when there is a full moon, usually whatever is hidden, things reveal themselves after the full moon. And this revelation was a very heavy burden that made you realize that the person you were investing time, energy, and resources with is not on your side or has your back. You're going to speak your truth. That's how you see yourself. Maybe in the past you felt like you couldn't speak your truth or you weren't being heard. And this is like forcing your truth on somebody in a sharp, quick manner. Your environment, 2 of Cups in reverse, your home, your surroundings, family, loves, friends, work, that which is outside of yourself, and how others perceive you, 2 of Cups in reverse. This is an end to a karmic union, an end to a soul contract. Nine, your hopes and fears of attaining the goal, the lessons to be learned, blocking your development. 9 of Cups. You hope to take your emotions, your effort, your time, and even your thoughts back. You're ready to focus on yourself and what you need to do. You can be going out partying, possibly, or being indulgent in some way. Be careful of that. Or you're just focusing on yourself and what you need. You're not giving your cups out to anybody. And you are giving back to yourself. Because perhaps you felt like you were lacking in the past in some way of nourishing yourself. The outcome, Queen of Swords, what you will gain from this experience, the reward, the quality or tool that will help you achieve a breakthrough. This is cutting out people, places, and things that no longer serve you. The Queen of Swords, she's usually depicted as a widower or a divorcee. It's not like she is cold, but she is logical. She sees things how they are. She's very perceptive and nothing gets past her, and she learns by experience. And I guess you've learned boundaries. You've learned how to take your power back and no longer give to something that is not reciprocal. This is definitely a romantic relationship or an end to a family relationship, even a soulmate tie. But whatever made itself known, it was almost freeing in a way, because in the end, you kind of hoped for this. You wanted the ending of it, and the relationship or the situation that you have at hand was too heavy for you to bear, and you didn't want to be the one to say that you didn't want it anymore. You didn't want to be the one to say that it was done, so perhaps you became apathetic and closed off and non-communicative. Possibly before you found this truth out, which became like a self-fulfilling prophecy, or you inadvertently got the other person to do what you wanted them to do, which was to cut you loose so you didn't have to say that I didn't want it anymore. So I don't know who found the truth of this. Perhaps it was the other person who didn't want to be honest and checked out of the relationship, or perhaps you did too around the same time, like you both disassociated from this for a really long time. Maybe you both kind of checked out, but you didn't want to be the first to say it, that it was dead for a while, and it just became so obvious to the point that you couldn't deny it anymore. Or something was found. Maybe there could have been a message that was found, a message or an email, you finding the truth somehow. Maybe you're suspicious and you found a message or email in passing, whether you were intentionally trying to find it or not. But that's what I feel like it happened. Like you found a message, you found either a text message or an email that somebody had other plans. Or perhaps you did. That somebody was already checked out and somebody had other plans for other situations, and it's like what you hoped for was to get out of a situation. It did come true, but perhaps you couldn't leave it because there was a tinge of codependency within it as well, that you didn't want to make the final decision because you had a fear that it would be wrong. So you got the other person to make the decision for you. But even if you felt like you really weren't into it for a while, you didn't want to be the one to say it. Maybe because you didn't want to take the responsibility of having to end it and speak the truth. But whatever made itself known, it taught you a new skill on how to cut out things that no longer serve you. Now, I don't know if this is an end to a marriage, or relationship or job, but it was something you had at one point a deep emotional karmic tie to. And whether the fact that it wasn't working out and you kept on trying, that it became a burden and you found that you had to let go because somebody already did, or you were apathetic to it and you didn't want to be there, but yet you would rather carry the burden of the relationship or situation rather than speaking your truth until it became so unbearable that it had to make itself known, whether it was intentional or not. Perhaps it was universe coming in. Perhaps it was that full moon that reveals things. And every time I've heard of this occurrence, I've noticed that it was true. And I don't know whether, if I didn't hear about it, would I have noticed this? I don't know. But it did coincide. It did coincide, regardless of the fact. But you find the entire thing a burden and you don't want to deal with it. You want healing in yourself. You want to give back to yourself. You want to end this soul contract because you see the truth now and you can't hold it back anymore. Queen of Wands. Ooh, on the bottom. There could have been a third party. Maybe your partner had a third party that they brought into the relationship and you found this out, or you decided to create something new within yourself and just work on yourself because you found that this was stunting your growth. And it could have been either or. If this didn't have anything to do with a third party, it was an increase in your awareness and your intuition. And through whatever hardships and conflict that you went through, it was able to give yourself an awakening of sorts, to be able to come into your power a little more. And it's earned by effort and by movement, not by sitting back passively, or sometimes it is. Sometimes, I guess it really just depends on what alignment's up there and what the universe has in store for you, really. On whether it's going to be passively receiving something or aggressively going after something. But you are aggressively leaving something from what I can see. And there's no more cups. There's no more water within these cups. All there is left is swords and an ending. If this is a third party that you found a partner had, then although it actually became like a blessing in disguise because you weren't happy, and perhaps they were not honest with you about that. And now that you have an explanation, it actually was relieving in a certain way that at least you didn't have to go on guessing and having your wheels continually turn, being suspicious of something because it made itself known. And when the truth makes itself known, it's almost like a relief. like a respite from all of the anxiety and suspicion of not knowing, even though it sucks, and even though it looked like it was heartbreaking, and it was better than the suspicion and not knowing. And it brought you into a new awareness of how much you didn't see about the people around you. And how much that you actually have to question the company that you keep, because it shook your foundation and your sense of trust to the point that you don't have a lot of emotions left over for this other party. It's like you were so over this situation that you were practically under it. If that makes sense. That by the time it got let go, it was like, it's like, thank goodness and a good riddance, you know? But I think you did the right thing. Whether it is coming back to yourself, and in either stories, it is coming back to yourself and starting to see the truth of things, and no longer carrying the burden of not knowing, and being able to focus on yourself again, and not having someone in the background sabotaging you and putting you in a bad state of mind, which makes you amazingly unproductive. And especially for someone who's not even worthy of throwing you off track. But let's see some advice for Cancer. Oh, I'm sorry, Cancer. Orphaned. Do you feel left out in the cold or rejected? You know, I'm so sorry. And I know it's painful. And I know you feel rejected. But if you really looked at the situation, were you really all that happy before you found out? Were you emotionally fulfilled? Did you feel safe with this person? Or are you more grieving the end of the cycle, where the good times of that cycle was long past? You had to, have you ever heard that old saying, rejection is God's protection? Actually, in this case, you cut him out. And you were protecting yourself, to be honest. And it had to make itself known to you, because whoever this person was or situation was, it was keeping you stuck, and it was keeping you down, and it was drowning out all of your fire and stealing your creative fire and your manifesting abilities, and leaving you in your head because of all of the conflict that this person brought into your life and all of the drama. So it was a necessary sacrifice in order to give yourself a new life, to start a new cycle, but this time put into something that can't be taken away from you, which is yourself, which is your goals. It's important to ask yourself, why is it that this happened? Was it because I am too trusting with people when I shouldn't be? Was it because I ignore the red flags, or I refuse to speak up about certain issues, or that codependency comes into play, that you would rather be with somebody and unhappy than be single on your own? And that's why you stayed in a situation that you were ultimately unhappy. Was it because that this became a cycle for you of always dating the same emotionally unavailable person? But ask yourself why it is that you allowed this person who wasn't out for your best interest, was able to throw you off your track as much as they did. Why is it that I stayed longer than I should have? And does this dynamic of this relationship mirror any other relationships that I have? Like if this person wasn't honest and didn't want to speak the truth about how they were checked out and how they didn't want to deal with the situation, how is it that you tend to avoid issues as well? That you would rather not talk about it than deal with it head on, which ultimately brings an ending, because nothing ever truly gets resolved, and dealing with carrying the issue is a lot worse than just actually dealing with it and moving on, because it brings a tinge of resentment towards the relationships that you have around you, which ultimately brings you at that ending, because it's not only the other person that is in the wrong when there is an end of the relationship. You have to look at what was your part to play within it too, because it doesn't bring us any power to play the victim in the situation, because you give up your power to the other person instead of owning it and using it as a tool to better arm yourself from situations that are not for your highest good. There's a fork in the road. It's either you staying in the situation or continuing a dynamic that is ridiculously unhealthy and that nobody is really getting what they want, or you cutting your losses and you sacrifice the things that you don't want in order to achieve the things that you do. Because what you have within you, no one could really take away, except if you give that power to somebody else and give them the power of your happiness or unhappiness. Then you'll be always at another person's will and at their mercy. Because you deserve a lot better, Cancer. And I feel that you realize this, And that's why you had to cut your losses and run. Because you realize that there is no authenticity within the situation. And how is it were you inauthentic yourself that you two became strangers without really truly knowing the other and what the other was capable of or incapable of. This has some heavy karma tied to it. Maybe this is a need to learn how to speak your truth. And maybe you've had a childhood where you were spoke over or you weren't allowed to speak your truth, and you just kind of, like that family unit where like children are best seen and not spoken, or better seen to be seen and not spoken. And as you grow up, it makes a person really unsure about how they feel and what they're feeling, to the point that, you can defer a lot of your own life choices towards other people because you don't take the time to truly explore that, if it's something that you really, really want even, or is it the situation that you want, or was it really the person? And if you continually to find your happiness and fulfillment in another person, you'll always run into these endings. Because you can't find your fulfillment in other people. You have to find your fulfillment within. Like Carl Jung has that saying, those who look on the outside dream, but those that looks within awakens. The universe is trying to show you something, and that's why you see a repeating cycle. Was it that this person, and maybe this person had a lot of bad qualities that really got to you? Maybe you need to look within yourself on how you share those certain qualities. Or is it qualities that you need to learn, which is boundaries, which is speaking your voice and knowing your true feelings and preferences? Because until you figure that out, you're usually just deferring towards other people's plans for you. But you deserve a lot better, Cancer, and I'm sorry that you have this ending, but usually we need to go to the darkest of nights in order to see the brightest of days, or at least a light at the end of a tunnel to lead us out of that night. So you could pull this yourself out of this repeating hell. Because really, when it comes to seeing things differently, or having a change in cycle, or a new paradigm, or a shift in perspective, sometimes that shift in perspective will have you seeing one thing in one way that it looks like the worst thing that ever happens to you, but then you see things in a new perspective, and it's the same situation, but what seemed like hell and brimfire and travesty looks like salvation and freedom. But that's what I have for you, Cancer. And I love you. Feel free to like, share, and subscribe if you did enjoy that reading. I leave extra notes below if I have any. And yeah, alrighty, bye.